7,000 high school students drop out every school day. Let's catch them before it's too late. To start helping students in your community, visit boostup.org.
In Fairfield County, something new comes across my desk every day. Crimes are committed, cases are solved, and a community is made safe by the hardworking employees of the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office.
Welcome to This Week with Sheriff Dave Phelan, a weekly program here on LSN Television and also carried by a number of our radio affiliates throughout Fairfield County. I do appreciate you, the viewers and listeners that join us each and every week. Special guest this week is Lieutenant Alex Lape. Good to see you, Lieutenant.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Yeah, you've been off and on the program over the years.
Yes.
Always good to see you. Before we get started, tell us a little bit about your background here in the Sheriff's Office.
Well, I started working at the Sheriff's Office in 1993 as an auxiliary. I started full-time in 1994 in the jail division, transferred to the patrol division, did various things in the patrol division, bicycle patrol, SWAT, and in 2002 I was promoted to sergeant. I was a sergeant until 2011 when I was promoted to lieutenant, and still in charge of that and a few more things, but pretty much that's my history.
In charge of a lot of things, actually. And then you have a family in Pickerington.
That's correct. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I have a son and daughter, or two daughters.
And your daughters are at least one of them is a track star, isn't she?
Well, they both were track stars.
Okay.
Just different ends of the spectrum. One cross country, and the other one was track and field. So they both excelled at that.
Oh, very good.
My son just now is starting his voyage into the track and field.
Now, when you were in school, did you run track?
No.
Didn't you?
No,
Okay.
no.
And are you local here?
Yes.
Okay. Lancaster?
Yes, sir.
Lancaster High School. What class?
Class of 81.
Class of 81. Woohoo. So in 1981, did you ever think you were going to be maybe a deputy one of these days?
No.
Was that part of your
No, that's
thing?
not something that I wanted to do. I started after I graduated high school, started working in automotive industry and worked in that, and then worked in aerospace for a while. Kind of became bored with that, so thought that maybe on the weekends I'd like to do something a little bit more exciting, and went through the academy, graduated top of my class, and started working as an auxiliary. Unfortunately, that career kind of ended when they closed the plant. I had the option to transfer to St. Louis or start full-time at the Sheriff's Office, so I did.
Wow. Isn't that something? So, and you've enjoyed your career, great career.
Yeah, it's been pretty exciting, lots of different things.
Now, as the patrol commander, you supervise the deputies that work in the neighborhoods. What are some of the other components of the patrol division that our viewers and listeners may not know about?
Well, I just happen to have some statistics with me here, if I could look at them. Some of the other things that they do are not only do they handle the calls for service, they'll do extra patrols of problem areas, serve court paperwork, we do house checks, we do standbys that are court ordered, we do ex parte emergency custody type situations. So sometimes those can get a little bit stressful, but we do a lot of different things other than handle the standard fare for patrol division is burglary, robbery, domestic, theft, things like that, along with traffic crashes, traffic enforcement. So they stay pretty busy. As a matter of fact, it's almost 70% of the time that they're working, their down time is that high that only 30% of the time do they have free to do some of the other stuff.
Yeah, preventive patrol and,
Right.
and doing those kind of things. And then there's also, as part of the road division, there's also our litter.
Correct.
And our weights and scales. Tell us a little bit about those two units.
We have an officer assigned to the litter division, and just for the month of June, he investigated 20 different incidents where somebody had dumped some type of refuse somewhere in the county. He'll pull that trash basically and sort through it and try to find leads and conducts an investigation based on that, and if he can substantiate the results of that investigation, he'll file a criminal charge on folks.
So if someone has, or say a family or something has a lot of trash dumped on their property or what, he'll go ahead and investigate those.
He will, and typically what we get is items that are thrown out alongside the roadway in the ditch that townships may have possession of that particular property as part of the right-of-way or something like that. Typically it's not in somebody's yard, but it could be on their adjoining property. It's got to be somewhere secluded a lot of times for these people to feel like it's okay to throw this stuff out. So that's where we end up being called to, and the investigation commences there.
And what about weights and scales?
Weights and scales, he's been pretty busy this month. He has issued 13 overload cites.
And that is the trucks that...
Right, the trucks that are hauling the heavy equipment or refuse or anything that appears to be maybe an unsafe load. A lot of times they'll stop that and check that out. But typically it's a lot of the vehicles that are coming through here from out of state that are carrying heavy equipment that may be overweight.
Now, is that similar to when you're traveling along the roadway and they'll have these weigh stations, but he's more of a mobile weigh station?
His scales are actually calibrated scales. He keeps them in the back of his vehicle. If he pulls the vehicle over, they'll move to a safe location. He'll offload his scales and have that vehicle pull up onto those scales.
Okay.
And that's pretty much how he conducts the business. And he's well versed in the laws of the state as far as vehicle weights. Sometimes we'll have situations where some of these guys will get off of one of the main routes and get on.
To avoid the weigh station.
Well, not only that, just to avoid the traffic or try to take a shortcut. And it'll happen to be a road that the engineer's office for Fairfield County has reduced the weight on, so that's a compounded issue then.
And why is that important?
Well, it's important for us to enforce the weight laws on these roads in order to preserve the roads. A lot of times, like we've been experiencing recently with heavy rains and so forth, the roads kind of get a little soggy, so to speak, not necessarily the road itself, but the soil underneath the road, and these heavy trucks on top of that could cause them to break up the pavement. So we want to try to preserve our pavement as long as we can, and it's as simple as these guys taking the approved traffic routes and not getting off on the side roads.
Right. The other thing that came to mind is we have a Deputy Kohler, that is assigned to, as part of her responsibilities, is the abandoned vehicles.
Right. She usually works hand in hand with the townships as far as abandoned vehicles that are on property. Sometimes we'll have a vehicle that's abandoned alongside the roadway that gets towed to an impound lot, and she'll interface with the impound lot in order to do what she needs to do to get that problem taken care of also.
So lots of things going on. And then a story that was in the news recently about our armored vehicle.
Right. We recently received from BAE, sometimes that's hard for me to say, BAE Systems. They're the manufacturer of the vehicle, but through the government's 1033 loan program, we acquired this vehicle at no cost to the sheriff's office.
Right, and I know she had folks donate the painting.
That's right.
Local, those kind of things.
Local Young's Collision donated the paint and did the paint job for us, which is really nice.
Yes. And so why is it important to have a vehicle like that in our county?
Well, it's important because of the fact that some of the situations that we may become involved in, whether it's a hostage barricade or a high-risk arrest warrant, I think that a lot of the people in general don't realize some of the risks that we face. And what we typically do is we have a risk assessment form in an incident like this, and it's scored on a point basis. If a person or a property is evaluated based on this form and they reach a certain point level, it requires us to utilize what would be considered a tactical response. So, and that would also require the use of our tactical team.
And you're the commander of the SWAT team, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's just to ensure the safety not only of the officers who are trying to take the enforcement action, but also of the citizens and anybody that may become involved in the incident.
And it seemed to me, after seeing that vehicle, that it would also be helpful if you had to rescue someone.
Right, right. It would be very useful in that situation. Back on the fact that it's a donated vehicle, you know, I know some folks have questioned how we went to Texas and picked it up. We looked into having it trucked back on the back of a lowboy type trailer, and that cost would have been somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,000 for that. We ended up actually driving it back because it only had 20 miles on it. So it was basically a brand new truck. So we ended up driving it back, and the cost for the fuel was somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,000. So it was more financially responsible to drive it back than to have it shipped back.
Right, right. Well, it seems to me it's going to be a good thing, and the bottom line is it keeps our deputies safe, and keeps our community safe, and it didn't cost us anything for the vehicle. The other SWAT vehicle is about 30 years old.
It was built in 1972. So
72.
Yeah,
wow.
we've revived it a couple times, so it's been a good vehicle, and we also received that through the 1033 program as well. So.
And 1033 is government surplus, right?
Right, right. And once we're done with it, it goes back to the government. It's not our vehicle; it's on loan to us.
So on getting back to the responsibilities in the patrol division, what are some of the more common calls that, well, let's talk first of all, we just got over the 4th of July. Did you get a lot of calls on the fireworks? And
well, we
those kind
did.
Of things?
We were kind of inundated with fireworks complaints, which is typical for that time of the year. We prioritize them, and you know, if it's just somebody setting off fireworks and causing a disturbance, if we can get there, we'll get there. If it's somebody who may be shooting, you know, fireworks off in an unsafe manner, it is against the law in the state of Ohio to detonate the fireworks that we're talking about.
But you can buy them here, but can't set them off.
Right, and it kind of puts us in a precarious position as far as responding to these type of calls. Which, if we actually observe somebody setting off the fireworks, we'll go ahead and file the summons.
Now, wasn't there an incident here in the county where one of the rockets fell over and struck someone?
Yeah, there was a 15-year-old boy that was actually struck in the face by a Roman candle that had fallen over when they were detonated. So I think a lot of times people underestimate the potential for injury when they're dealing with these things. The people that set them off at the fairgrounds have to go through extensive training and have extensive certifications just to be able to handle these things. So like I said, I think people underestimate the power that they may have.
We're almost out of time. I'd like to have you back next week and talk about some of summer safety. Sure. and a number of different things. With us this day has been Lieutenant Alex Lape, our road commander, and do appreciate you taking time out of your day to be with us. We're just about out of time. Do appreciate certainly you, the viewers and listeners, each and every week. Kelly Roberts, our executive producer, J.T. Burcham here at Fairfield Christian Academy actually produced and put this program together, and it's a great outreach to the community, and do appreciate the nice comments I get almost weekly about our program. Until next week, same time, same place, God bless, buckle up, and we'll see you right here next week.
When it comes to choosing a school, parents who want the best education for their students look for academic excellence, skilled teachers, a safe school that encourages their values. Students want a school with competitive athletics, unique opportunities, and friendships that last a lifetime. Fairfield Christian Academy, the place where parents and students agree. Enrolling now at fairfieldchristianacademy.com.